So understand the behavior of the kids, know your kid, understand the family dynamics, come up with some plans, which are short-term plans and long-term plans, and execute them. So when you do that, remember in Surah Talaq, verse number 3, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala narrated, وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. And whoever puts their trust in Allah, then He alone is sufficient for them. And yes, lot of du'as, like in Surah Al-Furqan, verse number 74, رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. Our Lord, grant us from among our wives and offsprings comfort to our eyes, and make us an example for the righteous. So this is what we want, this is what we aim for. Now, inshallah, I will open the house for any questions. How do we deal with the whining? Whining it could be attention seeking, or it could be a problem that our kids are not able to handle. So what you basically do is have your child sit down, listen to the whole thing, guide them that let's see what is the part of your problem which you can handle on your own, and what is something that you need help with. And ask them the question, if this is your problem, how do you think you can resolve it, and where can I help you? When you give them attention on the right place and stop giving them attention on the wrong place, you would notice that gradually their whining would stop. So again, you have to be very specific on, like, this is the place where my kid keeps whining, this is the time when they have this attitude. So when you start talking to them, communicating with them, that's when they will come up with all the problems that they're facing, and then you can inshallah work around their challenges. How to handle sibling rivalry? Sibling rivalry is a universal phenomenon. We see this as an opportunity at home to teach our children to handle small issues, so that ultimately when they're growing up, they learn to handle the bigger issues in life. For this, what you do is you set some ground rules, that whenever the siblings are playing or interacting, what is allowed for all of them. Common mistakes that a lot of people make for the siblings is that either they make the elder one look like you are like the grown-up kid and that's how you have to be acting out, or you give a lot of leverage to someone who is a younger sibling. Don't do that. Teach both of them the responsibility of handling the situations. Once you have set the ground rule, then take decisions based on that ground rule, not on like, this is my favorite kid and this is the kid who always behaves and this is the one who's always complaining or always picking on the other one. Like just recently, one of the mother contacted me and she said that I have an 11-year-old and then I have like 6 or 7-year-old. And they were talking and they were using abusive language. She warned them first and ultimately she sort of thrashed them. And then she felt so bad and then she came to me for advice. So I told her to go back and say sorry to them, that she lost her temper, and sit with them and tell them that we use respectable words for each other and when we're interacting. And when someone uses bad words, that's when we try to handle, or that's when we try to talk about it. And she said that it worked. And I told her that you give them alternatives to how we communicate with each other. So what we have to do is that every time they have a fight, don't always be a helicopter parent coming to their rescue. Deal with it and guide them how to manage their challenges. How to manage tantrum in public. The same way that you're going to manage tantrum when you are on your own alone. The very basic principle for the tantrum is, whenever the children they throw tantrum, you stay very composed and you ignore the kid at the time of the tantrum unless he's like in a risky situation or risky place. And once he's exhausted throwing the tantrum, then hold the kid, look into the eyes. Don't remind them about what they were doing or what they were throwing tantrum for. Just hug them and just offer them some food or some distraction, and ultimately help them resolve the matter in a healthy manner. Could you please repeat the points of showing kids screen and feeding? When we talk about kids having food along with the screen time, that's not healthy. You can read all the articles which are there online, which will tell you the rise of obesity in children is because they are eating and they're also glued to their screens. So when they're eating, they should be only with the food. Yes, if you want to distract them, especially like the kids between 2 to 3 years old, they're always running around and they wouldn't sit in one place to eat. So you want to, like, do the job well that way. So what you can do is bring up some book, storybook, some healthy book, some healthy activity that they could be sitting and doing, and then you're feeding them. How can a parent problem solve the porn addiction in children? It depends upon the age of your child. A lot of you are just telling me the challenge, but if you also mention the age, basically all forms of addiction have to be handled in a very, I would say, very compassionate manner, very proactive manner. And if your kid is too much into the porn addiction, then you definitely have to go to some expert to handle it. I would say the starting point would be that you teach them Quran so that they learn the right standards of modesty. Then you also bring in all the factors of modesty and haya that come in from the life of the Prophet ﷺ. Then you have to look at why your kid got involved in porn. Sometimes it's because of low self-esteem, sometimes it's because of peer pressure, sometimes again their decision making is not wise. Then you have to start working, as I said earlier, on the grassroots level. Teach them some strong parameters and then have a healthy relationship with them. And if you catch your kid doing something wrong, don't label them for life that they have done something wrong. Work on their addictive pattern, like their negative thoughts and all these challenges, and gradually introduce them to some healthy lifestyle patterns. And as I said, if it is a bigger sort of a problem, then what you have to do is actually take them to some experts and help them guide you towards the challenges. How to introduce stories of the prophets? Very easy. You read them yourself. You make it interesting. You ask them, children, what did they learn out of that? Or you can buy some books, and again, your kids can read them. Again, like, you can have some discussions. You can have some quizzes. You can't make up sketches of the prophets or people like that, but it could be like, you can integrate into your lifestyle. It could be like a bedtime story, or you could be traveling somewhere and then suddenly you remember a certain story and you talk about it, so that you make it interesting, not like a big lecture that, let me tell you about so and so prophet and the nation they had, and astaghfirullah, sometime what you're doing is something that reminds me of like the attitude you people have. How to deal with stubbornness? Be a positive parent, loving parent, respect them, and expect respectful relationship at the end. And look for the reasons why your kid is stubborn, which areas they're stubborn. And if they're stubborn in the wrong places, then remember I told you about establishing parenting RIT, where you start a lot of these green stands, lush green stand. It might take you for a while, and then ultimately you move towards the red stand. A lot of questions that you're asking me. I have done 3 courses for the ILM Institute. One is Visionary Parenting, where I've talked about parenting skills that you need to have, and I've talked at length about them. Then there is Visionary Teenager, then we have Visionary Child. So if most of you haven't attended those courses, I would at least highly recommend that you take up those courses and you'll get all the detailed answers for these questions. What do I do when my kid has bad friends? This is a big challenge, but the point is you have to understand that if you stop your kid from meeting those friends, what the kid is going to do is have a breach of relationship with you rather than giving up his friends. So first of all, you have to highlight, ask your kid, what do you like about your friend? Don't say, oh, they're such bad kids, what do you like about them? No, ask them in a respectful manner, that I see you hanging out with these boys or these girls, and what do you like about them? So your kid would come up with something which is nice about them. And then ask them if there is some observation that you have, that I observed that, for example, it was Salah time and it didn't see your friend praying. So what do you do when they don't pray and you have to pray? Isn't it a big challenge for you? Because first of all, you have to see what your kid's decision making is like. Then in a very subtle manner, you have to teach them to take right decisions, A, B, C, D, whoever is with us. Then the third thing that you have to do is introduce them without creating any defense on their part with those families and those kids who are like, more in a healthy frame of mind. And that's when, inshallah, you will feel that difference. What about grown-up kids like in 20s who are a product of abusive parenting? Yes, that's a challenge that if you had been a product of abusive parenting, then definitely when you will be starting your own family, you will feel those challenges. You will feel shaky about how you can handle your own families and kids. So the best advice I could give you is please learn some skills, be with some therapist. There is nothing wrong to be with some counselor or some coach or some mentor who could teach you all the skills. And past is past. Take past, no matter how bad it was, take past as learning experience and work more on your personality and groom yourself. And like, you can take a decision for yourself that if I was into this abusive parenting thing when I was a child, so I'll be a positive parent when I'll have my own kids, rather than thinking I'm not even going to get married and not going to have any kids. How to increase the confidence of children? Give boost to their self-esteem, their self-worth, like their own relationship with themselves. So the more they have a good relationship with themselves, that's when they will be able to move around in the society doing good. How to control the gaming time, make them take responsibility and listen to you. Have some rules at home, have clarity, have self discipline for yourself, and then guide them, and then set a lot of rewards for following the right thing. Read with your children. We can develop a personal ability about all these areas when we read. So it could be like, you can have 30 minutes with your kid where you go online, you can read some articles. What does it say about gaming time, or how we can become more responsible, how we can listen to each other. So when you read, then you keep reminding each other in a very pleasant manner how we can be following whatever we have read. Okay, how much screen time do you suggest for 5-year-old kid? I would say none. I would say till 7 years. If you can avoid it, it will be so good. So kids should not be with the screen time. They should be with books. How do you handle intoxicant habits? If you can explain this little bit. There are two terminologies. Habits are always supposed to be healthy, whereas the opposite of habit is not bad habit, that is addiction. So for the addiction, what you have to do is, again, all these addictive patterns, you have to break them properly. You have to teach them skills. You have to detox them. It's not even just for the substance, but it's also for the behavioral addictions. So there are many techniques depending upon what is there that is bothering you. What to say when they say no to hijab and free mixing? Just recently, one of the mother, she contacted me and she wanted me to have a counseling session with her teenage daughter who had been wearing hijab when she was young, and then ultimately suddenly now that she's teenager she doesn't feel like doing it. So when I chatted with her, I found out that for one thing, obviously she was hanging out with the crowd, no one was covering. So yes, when you're young it becomes a big challenge. Second important thing is, when I asked her about her self discipline, like her eating habits, her sleeping habits, her study habit, there was a lot of mess over there. So I told her that, listen, unless you become disciplined in your own self, like your four paradigms have to be disciplined: your physical paradigm, emotional, social, and spiritual. That's when you are in a frame of mind to take some wiser decisions. So I gave her a target for 2 years to work on those areas first, and then think about where she can place her hijab. But for those kids who say no to hijab, they're usually the ones who have not been studying Quran from the very younger age. Second important thing which I learned from my own experience and also experience of many of my friends is from hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ advised us to start the kids on prayer when they reach the age of 7 years. And yes, we can go more strict with them when they reach the age of 10 years. This is the parameter which is basically given to us for all the fard ibadah. And I take hijab for girls as first. So by the time the girls reached 7 years, we started guiding them gradually to wear hijab in a lot of places where they go. So they got so used to it that by the age of 10 years, they usually want to stick to it. There are definitely challenges when the girls would come up to you and say, I don't feel like wearing hijab, because again, there is so much the social pressure. So as a parent, you need to have that confidence and tell them that it will please me a lot if you stick to it, and it will make me really proud of you, and keep giving them support on that. Okay, please explain more how to develop good relationship with our kids. How I see this relationship building is that because there is a lot of pressure of the relationship. Let's say if you have a very good friend and she comes to you and she asks you for something and you don't even want to share that thing, but since she's a good friend and you have a good relationship with her, so even if you don't want to, you would still go up and do good things for her. But if someone whom you don't know and you have no idea who that person is, ABCD, and they want you to do a favor for them, you wouldn't be bothered. So relationship is very, very important. But for relationship, we have to set the right standards and principles. Relationship doesn't mean that you let your kid get done with anything and get away with anything. It has to come with what I told you as a parental writ. The parent needs to have a self-discipline, needs to have proactivity, needs to understand from Quran and Sunnah what is halal, what is haram, what I can allow my kid, what I cannot definitely let my kid do. So once you set the right parameters, when the kid comes to you doing something right, you hug them, you kiss them, you tell them you're so proud of them. When they're doing something which is not appropriate, you don't lash out to them, you don't punish them, you don't become sarcastic towards them. What you do is, in a nicer tone, but in a firmer tone, tell them, I'm so sorry, I would not be able to allow you this. And if the kid says, I hate you, you don't let me do anything, there is no fun in my life, and you just hug them and say, I love you so much. And I would love to do so many things for you, but this is my parenting which tells me I cannot. So you don't spoil the relationship, but you keep telling them what is right and what is not right. Okay, despite our efforts to guide kids to not treat material objects as prime, they somehow got this concept the school, college, then job, and then they can get all material possession like sports car. How to deal with that? I know it's really frustrating. Like many times, even when I look at my own kids, like all the value system that you give them, but they have so many influencers coming from the external sources. For one thing, a lot of duas, the duas of protection, then the duas for them, even otherwise, based on whatever temperament and pressures they go through. Second important thing is don't argue with them. Whenever they talk about having this job and nice material possession, appreciate them that yes, if you work hard, if you're responsible, you will get all these things. And then at the very same time, you can give a certain subtle remark, not a big lecture on like, mashallah, when you'll have all this, then you can also enhance your sadaqah. Then you can also become productive for the society. Then you can also become productive for the ummah. Then you can also do some work on some project for the needy people. So these are like small indicators that you can drop here and there. And let that seed that you're implanting in their heart, the ideas that you're implanting over there, let them flourish in their due time. And yes, making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that inshallah He can make that happen. How to handle internet in times of fitnas nowadays. Limit their time. Don't feel frustrated when your kids like sort of make comparisons. You are the one who are not giving me this access, and look at all the kids, they have the access. Don't feel that this is a privilege that you need to give to your kids. So as much as you can avoid. How to manage if the child is in the red flash or teenager too. You mean red stand. Yeah. If your kid is in the red stand, what you do is, first of all, you have to assess how much green stands you have, and lush green stands and yellow stand. If you feel that you're doing good job in green, lush green and yellow stand, then taking red stand will be fine for you. All you have to do is be very firm in that, but again, do not shout, scream or become abusive. Just be firm and just be a positive parent. Depending upon again the challenge that you're facing, you might need to consult some mentor, some counselor for the further guidance. But if you feel that for you everything is a red stand, there are no green stands and there is no parental writ, so first of all what you have to do is let go of whatever the kid is doing. Don't say yes, don't say no, but first work on your relationship, work on your proactivity, work on your self-discipline, and bring them. It might take you 2 weeks, 6 months, 1 year, to the point that yes, they're ready to listen to you. Sometimes to win a war, you have to lose certain battles. If you focus too much on battles, you will lose the war. Can you please tell me why it is bad to do everything for your child? What we need to do is basically for any age, we need to study about the age appropriate behavior, and you can Google it and you will find all these options. So whatever the kid my age is, I have to see what he should be capable of doing, because the kids are born on fitra. Now let's say if you are taking responsibility of doing everything for your kid, they will not learn to be responsible for themselves for that particular age. And obviously, if you are irresponsible and you reach teenage or you become a grown up person, you land into more problems. And that is why it is important. What to do if I feel my kid is emotionally detached from the family? Give them emotional attachment, and there are four hormones that you can generate for this emotional attachment. One is endorphin, in which you give them some physical activity. This is a hormone which will give them a high and make them emotionally charged. Second is give them oxytocin, where you hug them. Even if they don't want to do it, you just hug them or you hold their hand, or like giving them warm physical touch. Third is serotonin, and that is released when you involve them in some community project, like going out and helping other people. The next thing that we do is we help them release this dopamine, where we acknowledge small accomplishments that they have. So this brings in, even if they don't want to be emotionally charged, but these chemicals which will be circulating in their body, they will automatically charge them. How do you control your temper when the child makes mistake? You need to be constantly working on your anger management, and you need to be pro at that. And if your child is making mistake, you can tell them, I'm a little upset, or I want to help you with the correction. But at the very same time, you need not be shouting or going aggressive with your kids. And you need to understand your own temperament. If you are the one that any mistake done by your kid can become a trigger for you, so definitely you need to work on your anger management. How to control anger in front of kid when he or she showing tantrum. And that's what the challenge is. As a parent, you need to be working on your stress management, your anger management, and learning skills all your life. How to make an 8-year-old responsible if he keeps delaying everything. So again, what you have to do is Google and see what is the appropriate responsible behavior for 8-year-old, and see if you are, whatever expectation you are setting for your 8-year-old are according to that principle. If they are, then alhamdulillah. If they are not, maybe like you are setting a perfect kind of a picture in your head that this is how my 8-year-old should be behaving, but they are not according to the parameters which you will find by the experts. So what you have to do is then release yourself. But let's say your 8-year child is definitely not doing things which he or she should be doing, then you can set some steady targets and start teaching them, start guiding them. I have a 7-year-old boy, and I want to grow the trust of him praying every time I ask. He says he prayed, but I never see him. How do I go about ensuring he prayed? You can pray together. This happens. Don't ask them, and don't sort of corner them in such a way that you say, are you lying? Are you lying? I know you're lying. I know you haven't prayed. Don't do that. Don't bring them to this point that you intentionally make them lie. We have to be realistic. 7-year-old kid, sometimes they'll pray, sometimes they won't pray, sometimes they would want to just procrastinate. So what you have to do is, you can always take turns with them and say, okay, we'll pray together, or we'll pray in this certain area, and be around them at that time.
بارك الله فيك. جزاكم الله خيرا. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.